Save It for the Blind is sponsored by Tetra Hearing. Tetra Hearing isn't just hearing protection, it's hearing perfection. Kershaw Knives. Kershaw manufactures next-level pocket knives for outdoor enthusiasts. Save It for the Blind is now also being sponsored by Roseville Motorsports. Roseville Motorsports is the greater Sacramento area's premier destination for all your power sports vehicle needs. Stop in today to browse off-road vehicles from leading manufacturers like Polaris, Yamaha, and more. Rig 'em right, heavily seasoned gear for the die-hard waterfowl hunter. If you guys are enjoying the show, we'd love to hear from you and get your support. Please follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Give us a 5-star rating. Your reviews really help us grow and reach more people. Thank you for being a part of our community. Welcome back to another episode of Save for the Blind podcast. Our guest today is Chad Belding. Chad's founded several waterfowl gear and media specialty brands, including Banded, TFL Productions, the Fowl Life, This Life Ain't For Everybody podcast, Jargon Game Calls, and the Provider series of Rubs and Spices. So, Chad, welcome to the show officially.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
So, Chad, how did it kind of start out? I know you started later off in life, competition calling, you're a baseball player. Did you ever think your career would end up where it is today with all the stuff that you've been doing, waterfowl related and in the hunting community?
No, I thought I'd be in the show.
Didn't everybody?
Until my college coach told me I sucked, I thought I'd be in the major leagues. Yeah, are you asking how it started? Like how?
Yeah, you started waterfowl hunting later in life,
yeah,
right? And then you start pro staffing, all that, and then getting the calling contests, and then you just kind of kept blowing it up as your career went.
Yeah, I'd gone on some waterfowl hunts early in life with my Uncle Mel and my dad, which were mainly 99% Canada goose hunting in the south part of Reno. But my Uncle Mel was strict. It was always his way or the highway. It was no calling. Flagging hadn't really become anything then, so it was just the geese were coming there, and you would kill them, and you'd get out as fast as you can so you could set up again tomorrow. So my learning curve was really short when it came to understanding waterfowl hunting at that time in my life. I was more of a chucker hunter, antelope, mule deer, chasing my dad around the mountains in northern Nevada. And we had a really successful, career in the mountains, but it never really hooked me like waterfowl did. And in 1996, I went on a hunt in Winnemucca, Nevada, on this drainage of this place called the Sleeper Mine. And the Sleeper Mine is a gold mine up around Winnemucca, and the excess water that they'd pump into the mine would come down and flood sagebrush, and those puddle ducks would get in there to eat those sage seeds. And I was out there with a guy named Jim Ray, and these gadwalls went by us, and he hit this call, just meh, 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 and they, whoosh, and I was like, oh man. And that was literally when it kicked in of like, that's me. That's like I want to call ducks like that.
How old are you?
And I was 27,
okay.
26. I was later in life, so
this is after your baseball career,
and my baseball career, got cut short because I was told I sucked. Really, like I really thought I was going to get drafted really high. Like I really had aspirations, and I'm still dear friends with my college baseball coach from UNLV today. He was actually at my birthday party last week. He's famous for a quote of saying I was the biggest recruiting mistake he ever made, and he reminded everybody at the party. But when those gadwalls did that, I was like, man, that was cool, and it was like Walmart. Big River Flute, Duck Commander Duck Call, Mossberg 835 Ultra, whatever ammo I could get my hands on, and I have a Type A personality, and I became infatuated. Just like I would call Phil Robertson, Jim Ray, who was the guy that took me on that duck hunt, tells these stories that a couple of years later we end up becoming roommates, and I would call Phil, and Jace would answer, Willie would answer, then Phil would get on there and he'd talk to me, and then I'd call Tim Grounds in Johnson City, Illinois, me, hey bub, what are you doing? And I'd blow my routine for him. And I was just relentless on learning the jargon, if you will, or the vocabulary of a duck. And before that, my calling was coyotes. I mean, we go out and we tried to get as good as we could at calling coyotes to shotgun range, and I still love that. But once those gadwalls did that, it kind of spearheaded this love and passion for communicating with wild animals. And I think that the intimacy of that is what drew me in and has kept me in. I love the dogs. I love the camaraderie. I love the scouting. There's so many cool pieces of the waterfowl puzzle, whether it's weather and migration and just anticipation and everything that goes into it. But there's something about being able to say, man, we just had a conversation, right? And it doesn't happen all the time. There's times when you're in a dry field like we were in Canada and you think you're calling them in, but the mojo's doing all the work, right?
You're on the X and they want to be there.
Makes you feel good.
Yeah, it makes you feel like you're doing it. But there's times when you're in Arkansas, and I've always defined Arkansas as an audio state, right? Like the best duck callers in the world come from Arkansas. Now, I don't want people from CWA and Brett Crow and all these guys calling in and saying, because Brett Crow is one of the best duck callers I've ever heard in my life. There's a ton of you're a great caller. I've heard you call. There's a ton of great callers from Iowa, from California, from Louisiana, all over the country. But as a whole, if you don't blow a duck call in Arkansas and you're hunting timber, you don't kill ducks because they don't see the decoys. You know what I mean? It's not like they're over those trees and they can see a ton of flash down there. I'm not saying they don't see any at all, but they're hunting up that sound. They're hunting up all those duck sounds, like man, they're slapping on the water, and you're slapping your waders. People think that's to imitate different sounds, like this kick in the water is supposed to be something where ducks are moving around. Ducks are hunting up all of those different sounds that you're doing with your call, that you're doing by kicking the water, that you're doing by slapping your leg of your waders. And I think that's what has drawn me to the art of what Phil Robertson did, the art of calling ducks, Fred Zink mastered, Tim Grounds mastered, and so many great waterfowl hunters before us, was that calling. And one thing led to another to where I'm like, man, my competitive edge is still there a little bit. I'm going to try to get on stage. And that was a mistake. The only reason it wasn't a mistake is because the network that was started to develop, which turned into the Fowl Life and Bandit and all the companies that you name. But boy, did I suck. I mean,
how long did you do the competitions for?
I did them for a long time. I did them from 98 to 2004.
Okay.
Five. I'll tell you the last one I did, but John David Stanley, he was one of the best all-around callers in the world.
He's good.
The only reason I ever qualified for Stuttgart is because he would either blow the light or stick his call because he was so aggressive, and he is the best I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Hunter Grounds is probably the best short-reed goose caller I've ever heard, but John David as a whole, from calling turkeys to mallards to specks to snows to Canada geese to anything you name, the dude is unreal. Yeah. And so I qualified for Stuttgart my first year, and I remember the first round, John Stevens from Rich-and-Tone is the caller before me, and I'm on deck, and I'm like, oh gosh. I was like, and I shouldn't have even walked out there. You know what I mean? If I didn't have a little bit of grit and tenacity to me, I walked out there and I literally was like, what am I freaking doing here? Yeah. There's like 6,000 people in camo in the audience. John Stevens just won every he's a 3-time world champion. He's the best ever, right? And he blew this routine where I'm like, I never even heard anything like that. He's like and doing all the stuff that him and Bobby Joe Willie and Johnny Mafoose and Jim Ronquest and all these callers that Buck Gardner and Barney Califf, all the guys that were multiple world champions, I couldn't do any of that. I'm like, what am I doing here? And I stayed with it to the point to where I started to get a little bit more talented on the call, more so on the short reed goose call. But man, there's duck callers in Arkansas that are 8 years old that would just mop me up today. Yeah. You go there and you stand at max and you're like, I'm not that good. And that's why I think the humility of waterfowl hunting should always be there, because you might be the guy on your block and you might go out to Greenhead, Nevada and hit him with a little and get him. And then you're like, man, I'm ready for the big time. And then you go right back to what my college coach said. You suck. Like, don't go to Arkansas because you're not ready for it kind of attitude, right? And when you get to Arkansas, it's really hard to get the guts to pick up your call the first couple of years when you go there. I'm telling you, when you go there, you're like, listen to Joel Wicker, listen to John Stevens and John David or Dave Stanley and these guys that I would stand there and listen to call. Marty Hesh, you're just like, I'm not good enough to call with these guys. Cool. And it was kind of like reminiscent of that baseball career, like I'm about to get cut.
But what was your time frame? I mean, you started duck hunting. Was it like a year later you're already doing contests?
Yeah, because because John David Stanley and Dave Stanley, Dave Stanley's excuse me, my mentor. He's John David's father.
Yeah.
President of the Canvasback Duck Club, and I call him the Renaissance man of the outdoors. The dude can do anything from shooting a sheep with a bow to calling an elk in, getting muddied up in an elk wallow and being able to trick an elk, to being the best duck deceiver there ever was. And he taught me how to hunt mallards in Nevada, in what we call the sugarcane, and at Canvasback Duck Club. And I would be at the duck club and they'd be calling, and I'd be like, man, that's a different kind of calling. They were doing what they call Main Street. John David would always be practicing. He had an uncle named Alan Stanley in Dover, Delaware, that had Alan Stanley game calls that qualified for Stuttgart many times. His sons, both of Alan's kids, are great callers, more so turkey now, but they were unreal duck and goose callers. And so I'm like, what are y'all doing? And they had weekly calling practice at the Reno Fly Shop, which is the business that Dave Stanley owned in Reno, fly fishing. Yeah. He's a world-class fly fisherman too, which is why Renaissance man of the outdoors. I started going to those practice sessions and learning like, wow, my tongue can't do that. How are you doing that? The dexterity, the hand positions, the all of the different things of going from a low duck to a boss hen to a high duck to a young duck and I'm like, man, there's way more to this. Yeah. And that's what drew me into that competition. And then I got John David and me started practicing short reed goose calling. We would travel up to the Oregon Waterfowl Festival. Oh, yeah. We'd come down to Auto Life Sports in Modesto. We'd go to all of the competitions in Denver, Colorado. Sportsman's Warehouse was putting them on in Idaho. And we'd mop up a lot of times. He'd carry me. We'd go into the two-man goose, and we'd win every plaque there, you know. And then you'd go to Oregon. You'd face Bill Saunders, who was a genius at it, and Dave Smith and Brad Cochran and Kelly Powers would come. The Oregon Waterfowl Festival started getting big enough to where it started drawing the who's who, and then you'd go up there and you'd be sitting down in the bullpen with Kelly Powers, who's from Tennessee. Doesn't make sense he's that good of a goose caller. He's a great duck caller, but he's one of the finest Canada goose callers of all time. I mean, he invented sounds like the spit note and the spit moan and the train note. Like judges would walk up and go, "We cut you because geese don't do that," and he'd be like, "Yeah, they do." And he would be educating judges as this sport grew of competition calling. So I was right in the middle of it. So then I'm like, man, I'm going to go to the U.S. Open. I'm going to go to Easton. I'm going to go to every contest I can go to. Yeah. Probably another mistake because then you're just like first round eliminated. So you have to wait for the after party to talk to these guys and go up to the judges and kind of get some notes of what you did wrong. But it was so I hate that. I don't like when people say it humbled me. You always try to go into every experience with humility, but it taught me like, dude, there's so many different levels to this game. You guys have this cleat was given to you guys by Colton McKivitz. He's famous, in my opinion, for saying, Belding, there's levels to this. Because I'm like, I'll whip you in the gym, Colton. I'll whip you in pickleball. I'll whip you. He's like, no, you can't. There's levels to being an athlete, and there is. So when you watch Colton hit a golf ball, you're like, a 315-pound lineman isn't supposed to be able to look that athletic. Mm-hmm. And there's different levels of this game, right? And that's what traveling on the competition circuit taught me was I was nowhere near as good of a duck person as I thought I was. I was so many light years behind what was happening. Hunter Grounds growing up in that basement with Tim tuning calls and teaching him how to do those sounds. Kelly Powers being in that basement with Tim because it was a short drive from Tennessee to Southern Illinois' Crab Orchard, which was at one time the Canada Goose capital of America. Again, our prior conversation, how things change. It's not anymore. But these guys were with Tim. They were traveling. They were like this cult. Yeah. Scott Trinan, Big Sean Hammock, Fred Zink, Jeff Foyles. And I watched the Dameron brothers from Kentucky that just blew people's minds with their stage presence and then the way they could call with their mouth, without a call. But without going too deep into the weeds, competition calling is nowhere near today of where it was in like 99 to 2008. Back when Avery Outdoors was like the cream of the crop company. Tom Matthews, the founder, started Avery in 94, and he sponsored every contest. And in 2005, they had what they called the Avery International. They invited the top 25 short reed goose callers in the country to the Budweiser Center in Fort Collins, Colorado. And I got invited as one of they had a point system that year. And I was, at the end of the second round, I was in third place. That I found out later, after. Mm-hmm. But I was up there with Scott Trinan, Hunter, Kelly Powers. Kelly ends up winning it. I think it was $17,500 first place prize. And I ended up getting fourth. I got knocked out of third place. Big Sean, I think, beat me, or Scott. And I was pissed. Like, I was so mad because I'm like, man, I was right there. I did something right tonight that the judges liked, right? So that just fueled me even more in 2005. 2006, I'm in Saskatchewan with Fred Zink, who I'd been traveling with filming the 24/7 DVD series. And this guy named Josh Noble, who y'all know, who ended up working for Avery. He was a Vegas, but he took care of Kittles and all these accounts out west. He was up there as our guest because he was the waterfowl buyer for Sportsman's Warehouse in Midvale, Utah at the time. And I did this freestyle rap and this dance and the decoys on this video called Cluckin' Crazy, where people were like, who's this guy? Like, I was rapping and I was dancing. I was like I was cutting up. I was being funny because me and Freddie to this day cut up, right? And when we're together, but that prompted what became the Fowl Life, because Freddie had invited this company up there that was named Dancing Dog Productions that was owned by Shannon Nardi. And she had a show called Ducks Unlimited Water Dog on the Versus Network. And it was hosted by a stud named Justin Tackett, played college football for the University of Arkansas Razorbacks. He had a dog named Yella. And we started talking up in Saskatchewan. They're like, well, where are you from? I'm like, Nevada. They're like, we've never filmed out west. So they come out west the next year to film Idaho, Oregon, and Nevada with me. Dave Stanley takes us to the Canvas Back. We go to the Boise River with my buddy Norris Dancer, and we just have a big time. And 30 days after that, their producer ends up calling me asking if I'd ever be interested in doing a show about me because he liked what I did on camera. Yep. And that spawned. I was a toilet pumper. I was part owner in a portable toilet company, sucking.
I was going to ask what your job was. I was funding all these trips with.
Yeah, I was pumping toilets that gave me the fall off, and I travel on the weekends to contests because the construction industry would kind of slow down in the fall and winter. Mm-hmm. We'd stay kind of busy with special events and all that, but that they came on that trip. I got that phone call. I said, man, I got all these connections. Going back to what I said 10 minutes ago, I started to develop this network by traveling in this competition scene, which I give all the credit to the Fowl Life, Banded, all the companies that have happened was because of competition calling, because I'd sit there and study the industry.
Yeah.
I'd get cut in the first round and I'd go out and sit there and I'd study the industry. He's got a booth. He's popular. He's marketing like this. He's got fluorescent calls, but he's got matte black. Why is this guy so flashy, like the Ricky Henderson putting on the fluorescent gloves to steal a base and wearing the fluorescent green Mizuno cleats? But over here you got George Brett that didn't have anything but pine tar with no batting gloves, right? So I started studying the different approaches to this waterfowl industry, and that kind of led to me being able to go to people and say, hey, I got this idea. This guy's want me to film a TV show, and I'm going to name it Dr. Duck. And I know there's a Dr. Duck now, but I had the original Dr. Duck back in the day, and I was going to write this prescription for success every episode. And I'm like, that's so lame. Like, I have no credibility in the marketplace to be a doctor of ducks, right? So at that time, Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie, Lionel Richie's daughter, had a show on MTV called The Simple Life.
Yeah.
And it was like these rich chicks are out milking cows and picking up eggs and cow, dung and stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to name a show The Fowl Life. And so I went and I tried to start working on intellectual property, get a phone call from the producer, Mike Devine in Tulsa, Oklahoma. His mom got ill, has to put her in the Mayo Clinic, says, I can't do the project anymore. And I, by that time, had started developing what they call an entrepreneurial spirit. Very, very small dose of it, right? No God-given talent in business, just tenacity. Couldn't take no for an answer. So I'm like, do you mind if I do this on my own, Mike? He's like, do it, Chad, and good luck. So that's when I got it. I literally leaned back in my toilet chair, which was what I sold toilets from, as a desk. And I had this mount in my office, and it was 9 greenheads on a pedestal. This mount's in Arkansas now. I moved it to a lodge in Arkansas, and it was called Strike Up the Band. And it's 9 banded greenheads coming through real Arkansas timber on a pedestal. It's got a sign on the tree that says no trespassing, that the redneck shot up, BB holes through it. And then there's a plaque on the front that says Strike Up the Band. And I looked at that mount and I said, I'm going to try to name a company Banded. And right then I called my intellectual property attorney. His name was Brian Hardy at the time. Still work with him. He's in Vegas. Awesome attorney. And I said, I know we're not going to get it. It's synonymous with waterfowl hunting. And we got it. So I went after Banded for everything from TV production to clothing to manufacturing to everything. And we named the company Banded Production, went to Buck Paradise in Saskatchewan in 2008, went to air on the Sportsman's Channel in 2009. And as soon as that first episode aired, we started getting inundated with emails. What call are you blowing? What camo are you wearing? What boat are you driving? What gun are you shooting? I'm like, the money's in manufacturing. So that's when I went, all right, we're going to start Banded Gear. And at that time, Tap Out was the big show with the UFC. Mask and Skyscrape and Punk Ass had this show on Versus, I think it was. And they'd travel around to local gyms and pick a fighter and then sponsor him with Tap Out and then take him to a UFC debut or a big fight. Mask ends up getting killed in the car wreck. Tap Out became like the generational sign of you're a fighter, though. Everybody that never been in a fist fight in their life had a Tap Out shirt on and a sticker on their truck. But that's what they did. They made people feel like they were part of this UFC club, right? So I'm like, I want to mimic that brand. I want full frontal, in your face, not something you would see in Cabela's, like a mule deer laying there and it says, can't tell you canyon.
Classic.
The classics, right? I wanted something. So Axl Rose, my favorite singer, the best singer of all times in Guns N' Roses, had a song called Double Talk and Jive on Use Your Illusion 1 that came out in 1991. And I'm a huge GNR fan, so I said, well, Geese Double Cluck, I'm going to do a shirt called Double Cluck and Jive. And I went to an artist. I said, I want 2 geese talking back and forth, talking smack, because that's and Sean Stahl taught me a long time ago that geese aren't flocking together because they like each other. They're talking smack like a gang fight. And I've carried that into my calling my whole career. So that I wear that shirt on the Fowl Life, boom, starts to blow up. People want the shirt. And I get a call from Cabela's. John O'Rourke was the hunting buyer at Cabela's at the time. And they put Double Cluck and Jive in our second shirt, Red Dawn, into Cabela's. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this was just a TV idea. Now we're in Cabela's. And then I said, we're starting a call company called Banded Calls. Had to go to my good friend Fred Zink. Said, I'm starting a call company. I had to break up. Freddie did it to Tim Grounds. It's the way of the world. If you have the guts to go out and try to do it on your own, it's not for everybody, right? It's not, if you being on your own isn't for everybody. But if you do break loose and have a means of doing it. So I started Banded Calls. Came out with the Bonsai and 2 Goose Calls, which we just introduced again with jargon, the Wrecking Ball and the Crazy Train.
Yeah.
POs from Cabela's. Our calls went right into Cabela's. This was before Bass Pro bought them. This was back when they were still in Sidney, Nebraska.
Was it hard for you that you've had all those personal relationships with Tim Grounds, et cetera, to be like, hey, I'm going to branch off, and how'd that kind of work?
I'm the kind of guy that would be like, if I hurt somebody's feelings, I would go to the end of the earth to fix it.
Yeah.
If I got in a fist fight in school, I'd carry the guy to the office if I won and to the nurse's office, and then I'd feel bad. It's a weird mindset. Like you think you're tough, but you're really not. I could never be an EMT because I can't stay on the side of blood kind of deal. I wasn't that tough. I figured like you get into these relationships with these guys and you're like, I'm going out on my own. And then you're like, man, they did so much for me.
Yeah.
They did so much for me to where it affects some people. It affected people in this industry big time. Not just me leaving, but like when Freddie left Tim Grounds or Freddie left Avery and started Avery and X, it mentally would mess with the people that gave you the chance to be part of their team. And now all of a sudden you look like you're using that opportunity as a stepping stone. And I never wanted that to happen. It's happened to me several times since we started Bandit. It's a revolving, it's evolving to where it's going to happen. Yeah. You guys could be with CWA right now, and all of a sudden you're like, man, I'm really good at this podcast deal. See you, Scott. I'm going to go roll out and get sponsors and start my own. Nobody can stop you from doing it. You might have a non-compete for 18 months or something, but most lawyers can shoot holes through those things depending on how they're written. Yeah. You guys might go out and start a little duck club in a podcast and go make millions off of it. But you started in this room right here, but you spawned an idea that could have been bigger someday. So that's just natural progression in business, right? That's free enterprise in America. A lot of people clock in and clock out every day and stay a great valued employee. Some people go on to start their own company, creating more jobs. And so that's what I did. But to answer your question, yeah, man, I'd be like, gosh dang, Fred Zink taught me everything I know. He taught me how to scout. He taught me how to hide. He taught me to train. He taught me everything I know. And now it's Banded Calls and Zink Calls. And I got these calls that he made when my dad died, and he put my dad's name on there and his birth date and his death date. It'd bring tears to my eyes. Freddie came to my dad's funeral. He flew from Port Clinton, Ohio to Reno. Freddie made videos for my birthday last week, him and his wife, Dawn. He's a dear friend of mine. I'd check in on him every day when he was going through his health scares. I consider him the best there ever was at all aspects of this industry. From the hunt to the business part of it, the guy absolutely lit this industry on fire. There'll probably never be another Fred Zink. But when I left him, I was like, oh man, guilty conscience. How did I do this? But then it turned into something to where it was what I was supposed to do.
Was there ever a moment where you sat down, you're talking about you sat down on the toilet, you said, well, I'm going to start Banded. Was there ever a moment you sat down and thought, oh, we're making this. Like, this is, it's going.
Yeah, when was your all in? Chips are in, I'm selling the business. And
like, I started Banded.
I started Banded with my brothers in 2008, and we sold the toilet company in 2009. And if we would have been smarter with the toilet company, we got an offer in 2007. Y'all are younger than me, but there was a big thing they called the recession of 07, 08 that came, Fannie Mae, the housing, all that. Mm-hmm. Well, we had an offer that could have been pretty much generational money in 07, and that got substantially decreased by 09 when we sold to the same company that made us the offer in 07. Mm. So wasn't out of greed. It was out of market research and a forensic audit and logistics. Like, hey, asking big time developers, how long is this going to last? 8 years minimum. I was talking to big time developers from the Bay Area that were building in Reno, guys that went BK a month later because they didn't see it coming. Mm-hmm. And that's the God's honest truth. Like land being swallowed up by and taken back by banks because people didn't see this coming. So when we started Banded, I was all in. I've never had a paycheck from another company since that day.
Oh, wow.
I've never went and filled out an application since that day. It took me 4 years to take a paycheck out of Banded, what it was called Banded Productions, that morphed into what Banded is today at 4,000 SKUs. End up, long story short, the company I cut my teeth with, which I really didn't get into, I started pro staffing for Avery in 2001. When I went to Stuttgart, I'd go into Max and I'd see all this Avery stuff, and I got to meet all these Avery guys. Kelly Powers had his own blind called the Power Hunter. Fred Zink was working for him, and Bill Cooksey and Tom Matthews and Alan Hughes allotted me the opportunity to become a pro staffer. And then 14 years later, we bought Avery in May of 2015. Banded Holdings bought Avery Sporting Dog, and Greenhead Gear Decoys. And there's a long story of how Greenhead Gear became what it did in the marketplace and all of that. That's very interesting. Tom Matthews, genius when it came to business. Just don't know what happened to him, but I looked up to him big time with the founder of Avery. And he had a partner named Alan Hughes who's still with us. But I was all in. I was so engulfed in this waterfowl business that I was like, people were warning, don't make your hobby the love of your life, your job. You're going to end up hating it. And to this day, sitting here in 2024 in this CWA podcast chair, I'm more excited about ducks, duck hunting, getting new people involved, conservation, policy. Today's a huge day in our election, with the election going on. I'm more fired up about life and business and my daughter and my nephew getting into hunting and seeing what this industry has done for our life. I used to be like, I'm going to be a major leaguer, and I sucked. But now I hunt with Bo Jackson and George Brett and Will Clark and Colton McKivitz. And I'm not going to be a name dropper, which I just was, but my point was, think about that. I mean, in Reno, Nevada, where there's like 8 ducks around that area, like we're not known as a duck hunting state. There's more than that. I know that Nevada guys have a good thing going with certain spots, but just think about that for a second. Yeah. You're like a wannabe baseball player that never hunted a duck your whole life. Really, never really got into duck hunting. You killed some Canada geese early, then really got enthused in your mid to late 20s. And then you're like, this industry and this lifestyle is so special, to where you could come down to a CWA hunt and be in the blind with Ricky Henderson, who I used to drive. Not me, I was 8. My dad would drive us in 1987 when I was 10 and 11 years old to Oakland Alameda Coliseum to watch the A's play the Royals when George Brett and Bo and all those guys, Brett Saberhagen, Frank White, they'd come to play Dave Henderson and Dave Stewart and Ricky, and I'd be watching, and now I'm hunting with Ricky Henderson, and I'm on the phone with him, and I'm sitting in his box before they just left for Vegas, and I'm like, all because of a mallard duck. I would have never met Ricky Henderson if it wasn't. I would have never met Rock Merlot. I remember the knock on the door in Fairfield. I was down hunting the Sioux Sin Marsh, and they're like, we're going to introduce you to this guy. I was with a guy named Chris Giampoli and Chris Ravencroft. They're like, we're going to introduce you to our buddy Rock. And we've been tight ever since. But if it wasn't for a mallard duck fascinating me that much and wanting to get that intimate with one and get in bed with one, I would have never met any of. I wouldn't know you guys. Yeah. I'd be pumping toilets.
Still be a toilet guy.
I'd still be a toilet guy, which is cool because there's a lot of there's money. Yeah. That smells like money. Like that's what I love about these conversations about business or whatever, is that when I drive by a construction site and I see those guys out there at 2 a.m. holding the flag and holding the sign and being in that ditch and working butts off. Sorry, don't cuss. I thank God every day that that's not me, but I thank God every day for them. My dad was a union plumber. He busted his knuckles in the cold winter of Tahoe to put pipes in the ground. And I was blessed not to have to do that. But where would we be without them? They're the customers that support CWA and buy Banded. They're the guys that look forward to the weekend to getting their kids in the boat or the 4-wheeler to go hunt a duck or a deer or a turkey. So I'm always looking and how blessed we are to be doing what we're doing. It's Tuesday, or is today Monday? Tuesday. This is election day.
Election day.
We're sitting here talking about duck hunting on a Tuesday. Can you imagine? That's nuts to me, because I grew up with clocking in parents that would get laid off in the wintertime. And my mom's a nurse practitioner. She got her master's in nursing. She worked her butt off.
Yep.
They had to clock in and clock out. They were told what to do. And now we're sitting here talking about ducks on a Tuesday. Blows my mind. I pinch myself all the time that we were all in on Banded and that it just kept growing into what it. And you guys, you mentioned a couple companies that spawned off of it.
Yep.
But it's been a huge blessing. It's been the hardest thing that I think that I've ever done in my life. And if it wasn't for guys like Christian Curtis, Eric Larsgaard, Rick Frisch, Brandon Adams, I mean, I'm naming guys that saw the promise in Banded and had the ideas for waders and for bibs and for all of the product that you see. And did we take lumps? Did we take our lumps when the waders would leak in the early days? Yeah. I mean, there's memes out there that make me cry when I see them. Like now I laugh at them because, we've done it, but you guys have seen it. Then you got competition like that vest you're wearing, which hurts my feelings. Like I get my feelings hurt when people wear Sitka or QU or whatever company. Sitka's an amazing company. Yeah. Gore-Tex is an amazing insulation. They're amazing. Unbelievable competition. But I was so prideful. If Rocky was wearing something that didn't say Bandit on it, I wanted to mafia him. I wanted to call somebody, hey man, because he's the mafia guy. He's the Godfather. Right? I wanted to get rid of it. I'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you not wearing Bandit? This is hard to grow this company. Why aren't y'all supporting? Like I would get personal about it and cry like, man, they're not wearing Bandit. Yeah. Sitka's kicking our butt, man. They're doing this in Kansas now. How the hell did Sitka end up in Kansas? You guys are supposed to be in Montana hunting goats and deer. Now you're in the waterfowl game, and then the competition was so hard to. It's still hard to beat.
It's getting even crazier. There's companies coming out that have nothing behind their name, and all of a sudden you got $1,200 waders, and it's like you didn't even have a product before this.
Well, they look like someone else's wader. It's like it's all coming out of the same factory. Probably.
Yeah, thank you for noticing that. Thank you for noticing that, and I'm taking that as a personal. Because I really think that a lot of people saw what we did and what Christian and Eric were designing, and they're like, a breathable wader that's that light. I mean, what were we wearing before? Cabela's 5mm neoprene. And it wasn't bad. We got through with it. But think about the
down here.
Yeah, the technology behind the new waders that are out there now. We literally were bashed for a decade. To this day, we still get bashed of those designs. What are you talking about? You got to learn how to do it. Anything that's going to be submerged underwater, whether it's a boat or a wader, is going to leak at some point. You're not going to prevent it from leaking.
Yep.
You're going to hit a branch. Something's going to happen. You're going to rake it on your boat getting out. But it was our fault for everything. And we said, okay, we'll just keep trying to innovate. And Christian and Eric would go over there and they'd find new technology, new insulation, new windproof, new arc welded technology and stuff that we're 2 to 3, 5, 10 steps ahead of the curve every year. And I mean that, and people could say you're wrong, Sitka's better. I wouldn't say that they're not. I'm just saying that we are always the ones that are out in front of all the technology. We're never going to say we can compete with Gore-Tex, but Gore-Tex bought Sitka. We have Primaloft, which is a strong insulation. I just have so much pride in Banded that when I look across...
I didn't even notice.
No, I'm fine. I know I'm not. But when I go into a cafe and I see Sitka jackets hanging on chairs, I hang my head like a little pansy. And I'm like, man, what do we do wrong? Why aren't they wearing Banded? Why? So it kept me going. Like, how do we market better? How do we get the name out there better? Because now everybody's got credibility in the marketplace because they got what we call social media. Well, how did all these singers get famous so fast without moving to Nashville and becoming Waylon Jennings and going to honky tonks like Travis Tritt did his whole career and having to actually work their way up? Now it's like you put a song on TikTok about Applebee's and a date night and bam, you got a record deal. No offense to these guys because it's cool how talent is being found. Mm-hmm. But there's something to be said about going through what it means to grow up in the honky tonks and get a record deal, or to come up in what we did. We came up competition calling and seeing that the waterfowl industry the way it was, and now it's like, oh, we don't need a TV show. We're just gonna go over here on YouTube. Everybody in the world can go on YouTube. Not everybody back in the day, like Michael Waddell, Jim Shockey, Ted Nugent, the people that were the Drurys, Will Primos. These guys were spending $250,000 to $500,000 a year just to pay for airtime. Now you get a free channel on YouTube and you're the best duck hunter in the world? What? Like, how did it change so fast? You couldn't be ignorant to it. You couldn't become envious and jealous. That's my main thing in life. I will never get jealous. I hate that. I hate jealousy. It's such a bad thing. They support you on the way up the ladder. They're pushing you by your butt cheeks. Go, Chad, go. And then you get up on the top rung and they're like, man, we're going to throw rocks at things that shine, right? They're going to try to knock you down, but they support you on the way up. But when you make it, it's a weird mindset in America. Mm-hmm. It's weird. So I want people to be successful. I don't want to be jealous of it. But what audience are we talking to that is so easily entertained to where everybody is like, that's the best song in the world. I've never even heard of that singer. But he's got a cult following that's selling out football stadiums. Never even heard of Zach Bryan. And the dude is like, came out of nowhere. Right? Back in the day, you'd watch MTV and they'd make a video. You'd hear him on the radio. You'd see the top 7 at 7 or whatever. And now it's like, just sold 66,000 tickets in 4 minutes, right? Yeah. It's crazy how things have changed. But in the waterfowl game, it's changed the same way. Mm-hmm. You're just like, where did that company come from? Good for them. They're taking a chance.
It seems like there's a lot of them. I mean, I won't name the company, but I mean, I'm sure it's frustrating. Like, you do your manufacturing, you get all your stuff, and then you see someone else's product that's somewhat mimicked. Because I've had decoys come into my house.
Just say what you're trying to say, Jeff.
With 2 different brand decoys in the damn box.
Same factory.
Same factory.
Same paint scheme.
Two
same
different brands. 2 different brands in 100%. The same box.
Yeah.
And it's like...
The keel was maybe a little different. Probably had a different name on the keel or something.
Yeah, right? And I was like, to the company, like, hey, wrong goose heads because it's other brands, you know? And it's just like, you know, people bash whatever brands they want. But I mean... What do you guys do as a company when someone literally rips off your gear or whatever? I mean, is it hard to even regulate or even sue
I think
somebody?
So. I think that when you start talking about the word proprietary, it's very hard to defend. I mean, like our mutual friend Terry Denman had a patent on the spinning wing from 1999 to 2019.
After that,
how many people are in the marketplace now? Yeah. They were like waiting. They're like, man,
sharks circling.
They're like, we got this product design. As soon as that patent's gone, Lucky Duck, Avianek, boom. I mean, you just keep naming them. This band, but there's still only one Mojo. Yeah. There's still only one story about California and Terry's vision and how that happened. There's only one story about drug deals being done in paper bags that was a spinning wing going into windows that were being rolled down in a parking lot in Louisiana, and it looked like a drug dealer was handing drugs through the window. Because these things, they had to make them one at a time, and people were going nuts for them. Yeah. It was a high. It was like an addiction. They're like, man, I need that spinning wing. Man, did you see what the Ducks did? We need one, man. Did they come from them? It was like a drug, right? So when you see that, Terry Denman, who's the nicest man in the world, my mentor, a genius in engineering and product development, like I will literally tell everybody, he just got the top 25 waterfowlers of all time. Well deserved. He's in the Hall of Fame, outdoor. I mean, the guy is legend, and he's still here. He lies about his age. He tells me he's 65. I don't think he is. The dude is just like nonstop. He's been in this industry forever, and he's so young still. And he's still. Have you guys seen the new Pick Stick Pro?
Yeah,
we just used it in Canada.
Saw it on your video.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
like come on,
great idea.
Like come on, the first one was awesome, and now this Pro model where you got the slide and you don't even have to put your fingers on the hole and get a little black powder on your phalanges. Now you just slide the stick and they all fall off in the bucket. I mean, who thought? Who'd have thought that Terry could make that better?
When we had him on, after he left, we both sat down and was like, that man is so intelligent.
You go in his engineering office in Monroe, Louisiana, and you sit down with him, you're like, you remember this line in Step Brothers where he's like, this is a house of doctors? Yeah. You know you're in the presence of a genius. You're just like looking around going, I'm not that smart.
That's what it felt like.
I'm not that smart.
Yeah, because I mean, you watch the show and you're like, you know, whatever. And then you talk to the man, you're like, just how he speaks, you're like, this is a very intelligent person. And it was really cool to talk to him. But
how that's a great testament for what guys like Adam Carolla and Joe Rogan have done for this. And whoever invented this, because it used to be you'd have to be on David Letterman and go on a scripted interview and be famous to be on a show like this. But now you get to hear the story of Terry Denman because of podcasts.
Yeah.
And you get to get down in the weeds that, I watch Mojo TV and they come into the decoy and the coyote runs in, the turkey comes in, they get shot. And then Terry says, see y'all next week, right?
Yeah.
Terry taught me what yonder means. He taught me what y'all means. He's like that Southern draw. Like we've been around each other I've been with Mojo for 22 years. That's amazing to me, right? Almost since the beginning of the company, me and Terry started working together. So back to your question is like, you kind of like want to protect it, but you also don't know what you want to spend your energy in of like, how long can we chase that in court? How much lawyer fees how many lawyer fees are we going to rack up? What's it worth how are they going to just find a little bit thing different of, well, that decoy is a little different. Well, man, I could tell you stories in this game that literally drove people out of this industry, drove people to be mad, bipolar, depressed, dark, and I'm not trying to sound drama. I just know for a fact that the topic that you guys are bringing up about competition and copycat and not being original and knockoff companies and Me Too companies, I could tell you stories for 10 hours. We could do a whole year of podcasts that you'd be like, no way, that really happened? No way, you were in a factory in China and you saw that? Like, you'd be amazed. It happens every single day. Every single day. But who are we? Like, we didn't invent the goose flag. Randy Bartz, the flagman, was doing goose flags a long time ago. Tim Grounds had a double, triple flag on a freaking stick. We have that same thing today. So we can't sit here and go, we started the flag.
Yeah, you can't claim you created everything we that you're producing.
We didn't create any of this stuff. Waiters have been around forever.
Yeah.
Christian and Eric just found new technology that made them a lot more comfortable to wear, to where you felt like an athlete, right? Yeah. Duck hunters could feel like an athlete when they're moving around the decoys and the blind and all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you want to protect it. You don't want people to be like, oh man, we're on their tail, because then you're like, you see these things on social media, sold out. Well, how many did you make?
Yeah.
I know how many pair of waders you made because we know the factory. Quit trying to tell people that you're sold out when you only sold 200 pair of waders, because that's all you bought. That's all you made. So it's a weird, social media is a mind game. What's the main thing about social media? Everybody's living their best life.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Everybody's just scrolling going, damn, I don't got a boat like that. Man, she's prettier than me. Man, that guy's on another vacation. It's like we just compare ourselves to people every single time you're on it. Why go on it? Why do we go on social media? Why?
I delete it.
Can anybody provide to me a good reason
why I stay off
to go? Good for you.
I don't have an Instagram, and I have
good
Facebook
for you
to keep up with CWA, because
genius.
For me, it was just my thing, and it's the younger generation of hunters. I'll say the 18 to 25, where it's like you're posting this picture for getting your kicks off of some random guy going, hey, that's a great hunt. You had a great hunt at some refuge, and it's just one after another, after another, and after another, after another, and it's. For me, I grew up with a small group of friends. We hunt, and that's who, if I have a successful hunt, hey, check out what I did. But I don't need the pat on the back from the random person because me and Jeff went out and shot a limited greenheads. Like, that's a personal thing.
It should be.
I mean, I think in everyone's journey, at probably one time you were there, like, hey, I just won a baseball championship, or I just hit a home run, or I just shot a limited greenheads. I'm excited for that. Kind of as I get older, it's like when I look into a hunt, there's so many other things that could happen, and why that day was successful over another. It's not necessarily like I'm the big bad awesome
the picture at the end.
Yeah, it's like there's so many things that go into it: spot, who you're with, all that. It doesn't necessarily mean if I'm confident in my ability as a duck hunter. I don't need that gratification of people telling me, hey, how great you did. But also, I don't like people knowing really what the heck I'm doing. Like, hey, Jeff, I saw that you really got him last Wednesday. Be like, yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, we saw your truck in the parking lot. We kind of know where you're at, but now we're really going to go find out where you're at.
Yeah, and that's probably where I'm like, I'm good on that.
No,
a picture with my son in the blind or something, but that's about it.
And this shirt I'm wearing, in this game, you have partners, right?
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for Benelli believing in us, the first 3 years of our business, we were with Escort Shotguns. Andy McCormick, Legacy Sports in Reno, who works with CWA. Andy McCormick's one of the greatest human beings in the world. He gave us the blessing when we were approached by Benelli. We got approached by Benelli at NRA in Houston a long time ago. We're in season 14 with Benelli now. So my point in saying that is that Federal, Mojo, Realtree, Band, all these companies that we work with and believe in us, Corning Ford, CWA. I wish Scott Mueller would call me tomorrow. I wish Tom DeBolt or Tim Joseph or Nicky Andrews at Benelli would call me tomorrow. Brian Kelvington at Federal Black Cloud would call me tomorrow and go, hey, good news. What's that, Bri? I call him Lewis because we're both Revenge of the Nerds fans. That's our favorite movie. We watch it in Duck Camp every year when we're together. Me, him, and Nash. What's that?
The Mega Moose?
Yeah, the Mega Moose. Great, you know the movie. How old are you?
I am, 38.
Oh, dude, you're way younger than me to know freaking Revenge of the Nerds. Anyway, my point is, I wish that phone call would come and they'd be like, guess what? What, Brian? No more social media. You never have to do it again.
Yeah.
We don't care about the analytics. We don't care about your impressions. We don't care that Benelli's shotgun was seen on there and you tagged us 18 times in a month. We don't care anymore. That's what my dream is, man. Yeah. I would do anything in the world to be like you guys and be like, nope, no account. I don't have any personal accounts. I put my daughter on there like 3 times in hunting situations or something over the years.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are we really doing? Everybody has an account. I don't care that your kid took their first steps. Text it to me. Yeah. Tell me they did. Oh, you had another latte for breakfast today? Who gives a you-know-what.com is what that goes on, in my opinion. Yeah. But people are so fascinated with what other people are doing. Yeah. He's probably scrolling right now. He's either on Tinder or he's on Instagram right now. But the point is that we get fascinated with this scrolling. Yeah. You got how many people you follow? 3,500. You watch what all 3,500 of them are doing every day? Yeah. Like, that's crazy to me. The mindset's nuts. It used to be 3 channels, Johnny Carson, The Cosby Show, and Cheers, and I was happy. And I'd get to watch wrestling on Sunday mornings, and Hulk Hogan would come out and do the same thing that we just watched him do live a week before, you know? It was just a great time to grow up. Yep. And now it's like, man, I wish social media would go away. But yeah, the theory of that was there's a lot of competition, and it's hard to defend what we do against it, but you got to be savvy. You got to know that it's there. You got to know that it's coming, because here's what's the deal is, guys. I just turned 50 last week. I'm 50 years old. I don't know about YouTube a lot. I don't want to be ignorant to it, but there's guys that are 23 now that are doing things on selfie videos and YouTube and marketing and production. Like, this guy is 25. He owns his own production company in Nashville. They're doing things that we didn't do. They know what you got to do right now. Well, you don't need a TV show right now.
Now it's podcast.
Traditional TV, you got to have a podcast. So we've tried to diversify. Yeah. Social media, podcasts, the TV show's still there, YouTube channel's there. And then the thing that we take the most pride in is our live events, our ability to interact with customers or distributors or dealers, or CWA wants to take a great donor on a hunt. I want to be the guy that puts on that hunting camp. I want to throw down on a duck recipe for you. I want to have a musician around a fire. I want to have dogs around. I want to make it an enjoyable experience. Yeah. So you add all those legs to that bar stool. You got 4 or 5 legs doubled up on a bar stool. You have a full body approach, right? Yeah. You're not just, man, I don't care what's going on today. I'm staying on TV. Yeah. Really? Well, you're going to be forgotten about.
Yeah, you've been an advocate for CWA for a long time now. How'd you get in cahoots with us, and what do you think is the best part about CWA that you hold in such a high regard?
Rocky Merlot he wasn't the chairman of the board at the time when I met Rock, but he was on the board. And I've never been around a human being in my entire life that is more about others with philanthropy, getting people. I've never seen anybody like go nuts like he does, whether it's the Durham High School shooting club, whether it's women in the outdoors, whether it's getting kids involved on a youth hunt, whether it's donating something, whether it's going to Wisconsin to the Republican convention, whether it's going to Nashville and working with Laird Hamberlin and Safari Club to tie that knot between CWA. The guy is always thinking about the future of duck hunting in California, which is what turned me on to CWA, because Rocky always taught me what happens here. And, you know, he introduced me to you guys, Mark Henley and Jake and the great John Carlson and Scott Mueller. And what happens in California, what starts here, now the syntax is on the docket in New York and Maryland, and Newsom put 11% on ammo here. Like, it's crazy, but it really does. So when you start watching policy and advocacy and what's going on in Sacramento, the state capital, and what Henley's fighting for every day, you're like, man, I don't want that to happen to me. You got to get involved. So I've always said, I don't care if you live in Arkansas or Alaska or New York or Florida or wherever you're at. If you're on the Snake River in Idaho or the Missouri River in western North Dakota, get a CWA sticker on your truck and become a $35 a year member, or become a life member. Mm-hmm. Because that money is going to things that are going to help you in the future, whether you ever hunt California or not. Yeah. And I think that you asked what my favorite parts are. There's too many to name. When I first got introduced to egg salvage and Rancho Esquan and the incubation, and picking up those eggs with Huber, and I don't remember everybody that was there at that time, but when I first got introduced to egg salvage, I was like, holy smokes, man. When I saw those ducklings coming out of those cracked eggs, knowing that we just went out in the field and picked them up, and that farmer called you guys, and you went out there and we had the cans on the thing, and we're scaring the hen off the nest, and we go and get her ducklings off, the eggs off of the nest, because a farmer, he would have never called you guys if it wasn't for the communication, the transparency, and the savviness of CWA to go in there and make that relationship. Hey, man, we're doing this for conservation. Goes right along with farming and sustainability and nutrient ag solutions and everything that was going on in my life. I was like, man, this is way bigger than squeezing the trigger and taking a pile pick. And then the sooner, my whole messaging has always been, the sooner you can realize that. Because when we're 20, we want limits. When we're 30, we want limits, but maybe we're one short and we want to get back to watch college football. When we're 40, you're like, am I going today? Like, I mean, I'm going, but there's a lot of guys that are like, I might just chill out and watch the game today, right? There's different maturity levels in a hunting career.
Oh, yeah.
And the sooner that you can realize how important California Waterfowl and their mission is, then if you're 20 and you're like, I'm going to try to kill 6 greenheads today, or 5, or whatever, 7 if you're in California, and I get 3 pintails, whatever it is, starting in 25, but you have it in the back of your mind that I'm going to become a member, I'm going to help out with a banquet, I'm going to spread this message about conservation and sustainability. I'm going to be a little bit more mature for my age and my hunting career. Doesn't mean I'm not going to go have a little beer tonight and party as a 21-year-old. Not trying to take the fun out of anything. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, have the fun, master the calling, master the dog work, the scouting, the blind, the concealment, everything that goes into it. And then in the back of your mind, be like, we got to thank farmers. We got to fight on Capitol Hill. We got to give money to make sure that this pack has enough money to save our hunting rights. A kid under 18 can't go shooting with his grandpa. The youth hunts. Remember when all that was on the docket? Mm-hmm. It could come back at any time. Yep. Newsom could throw anything at us. You know, that side of the spectrum can throw anything. And if we wake up in Kansas, if we're in El Dorado, Kansas, and I wake up and the skies are full of mallard ducks, and I'm not conscious that there's things being fought for. We're 2 hours behind Kansas out here. So we're in the Pacific time zone. When they're shooting mallards at 9, Mark Henley's walking up those stairs at 7 a.m. to get ready for his first meeting or hearing to fight for rights of hunters all over this country. It might be a regionally based organization, but what they do is so much on the national level, it make your head spin. And that's what always turned me on about you guys. We have Nevada Waterfowl. I host the dinner. I'm the MC every year. We don't have 60 banquets a year. Yeah. We don't have 35,000 members. We don't have hundreds and hundreds of volunteers and hundreds of full-time employees. Are you kidding me? This is a real business. This is for hunting. This is for the good of future generations of boys and girls that may never pull the trigger, but they're going to get to go to the Suisun Marsh and see pintails flying around, which is a lot better than concrete with an airplane landing on it. Yeah. Or a golf course running through there with Tiger Woods hitting another, which I love golf, but enough's enough. Let's save some of our wetlands. Let's save some of our hunting ground access. And CWA's fighting for that. They're getting donors to invest, to buy property that they'd never want to let a developer buy. How genius is that? Nope, you're not going to build here. Well, who are you to say that? Well, we just bought it. No trespassing. This is a CWA farm. We're going to allow people to go into a draw system to take their kids and their grandkids out here to hunt for the next 100 years, and you're not going to do anything about it. And if that's not worth $35 from every hunter in Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, where duck hunting is king, in the Delta down there and the Grand Prairie, and if you're in Arkansas and you're standing on that boat ramp and watching 100 boats go out to hunt the flooded timber, you got to know what's being done in California that's going to be in your state someday. Yeah. And that's what's turned me on and intrigued me about CWA.
I think you've always done a good job on your shows of it's not just going out and killing ducks. You tell a whole story, kind of where you're at, et cetera, and do a good job of explaining to people what you're doing and all that. But what I've liked about the show is people have a misconception of California for a lot of other reasons, political, et cetera, but people don't really put California on the top of their list of like a waterfowl destination. I think you've done a great job of showcasing what California waterfowl hunting is to really kind of enlighten folks of what the heck's going on out here. Some of the struggles that we're facing, but also how world-class it can be, just like Arkansas, Texas, et cetera, Missouri, and all that.
One of the best ever. If you can start in D10 and drive through 70 and 99 and get into the rice country and then get down into what they call the Butte Sink and then the Sacramento Delta, and then you can keep going to the Suisun Marsh and all the way down to the Salton Sea. I mean, if you really came here and landed at Sacramento International Airport and you wanted to see ducks and hunt ducks, there's not many states in the country that are going to be as majestical as California. And I mean specs like you've never seen them. Yeah. 10 per day per man.
Yep.
But specs like you've never seen them, pintail like you've never seen them, widgeon like you've never seen them, mallards in the Butte Sink, the duck clubs, the habitat, the story, the decoys, if you look back through all of these stories of California duck hunting, San Francisco and market hunting, and Theodore
history,
Roosevelt, and the history, and the presidents, and Babe Ruth, and DiMaggio, and I mean, again, I'm name dropping, but it's like I don't know if there's a more historical duck hunting place. Maybe the Eastern Shore, maybe the decoy houses and the carvers and the body booting of the Eastern Shore. Stuttgart's they've deemed themselves the mallard capital of the world. But when it comes to sportsmen in the field, duck stamps sold, all around harvest, California's always in the top 5 of all of that. And you're fighting a government that literally is based in really 3 cities, Sacramento, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, that doesn't want you hunting. You think about Hollywood, the elite, Rodeo Drive, Beverly Hills, San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge, Chinatown, whatever it is. Nobody ever thinks California, man, that's duck hunting. They land here and they're like, man, I'm going to San Diego and I'm going to the beach. I'm going to Temecula and I'm going to go be a foodie. Or I'm going to San Francisco and I'm going to run across the Golden Gate Bridge. I'm going to go see Alcatraz. Really, I'm going to go catch a sturgeon right there by Alcatraz. And then I'm going to go kill a canvasback and a ringneck right there by Vallejo. And then I'm going to go over to Fairfield and get some teal. And then I'm going to run up to Martinez and I'm going to shoot in the marsh off of the 680. And then I'm going to go to the Butte Sink and be at the Wild Goose or the Brady and see mallards coming into buckbrush and sloughs. And then I'm going to go set up for specks in towwater or rice or flat. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And then be able to kill 10 specks a day and then eat them? And then tell that story like you're referring to of like skin on specks, reverse seared with a little bit of smoke on them. Or you go to like Basque Norte and get their marinade like Rocky taught me and put specks in there for 2 hours. Basque Norte.
Staple right there.
But I mean, their marinade that you can buy anywhere now is amazing for specks. Yeah. Or you use our provider rubs that we started the provider. Our slogan is finish what you started. Meaning if you're going to be a harvester or you're going to be a provider or you're going to be a hunter, gatherer, why do we hunt? I like to eat ducks.
Yeah.
Brad Forsyth's teal recipe, put it up against any steakhouse in America. I love the Fish Street. I'll take his teal in there, put it on a plate against that ribeye, and have people not know what it is and go, this is the best steak I've ever had at Fish Street. And we're like, well, that's Brad Forsyth's green wing teal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's how cool this lifestyle is. Hone your skill set. Try to be the best you can be at it. Not that you're better than anybody else. Stop saying you're the best duck caller because I promise you, you're not. Promise you, go call against Bobby Heim on the world stage. Go call against these guys that are practicing right now while we're on this podcast.
Yep.
There's like I said, there's 8-year-olds in Arkansas that'll mop us up. I'm nowhere near a good caller. I'm an average caller, average at best. There's people that are unreal at it. So why not try to say, well, I can do a little bit of that. I can flag a little bit. I'm really good at scouting. I know how to ask for permission in networking. I know how to flag. I know how to hide. I know how to run my dog and handle my dog. I've taken the time off to really become a really good handler. Now I can freaking butcher and process with the best of them. You want duck burgers? You want me to mix it with fat? You want me to get some pork fat or bacon and get a grinder out? You want me to throw down on a taco bar? You want me to do a pasta? You want me to do a reverse seared speckle belly breast for you and pair it with some red wine? And think about that. Not only are you scouting in the anticipation of the hunt and you're visualizing, I always talk about the art of visualization. Ted Williams, the best hitter of all time, wrote about it in The Science of Hitting. Chapter 4 was the art of visualization. I visualized the hunt the night before. I got my blank canvas there and I'm throwing paints at it. All right, the roost is here. There's another roost over here. The wind's going to be out of the northeast. It's going to be 13 miles an hour with gusts to 18. It's going to be 32 is the low, 39 is the high. This is what the mallards are going to be doing. This is what we're going to set up. We're going to have ripples on the water, a jerk string, one mojo, but we're going to tuck it under these branches so it's not in the middle of the keel hole. So they're just seeing slight flash. We're going to call at them on the edges. Our dog's going to hide. Like I'm visualizing it. And then as soon as that dog brings back that first duck, I'm visualizing the meal. All right, man, tonight we're going to do this. We're going to do, and these guys will attest to it. We've thrown down a lot. Oh, we're going to do duck fried rice tonight. We did vermicelli, Vietnamese vermicelli last week in Saskatchewan with a chef. Me and a chef named Breyer from the South Island of New Zealand did a Vietnamese meal and killed it. So think about that lifestyle that you're visualizing the hunt, honing your skill set, getting a couple of them on the strap. Your dog has a day. He's doing or she's doing what they're put on earth to do. You handle them on a blind or a mark, over, whistles. You got a whistle on your lanyard now, not just a mallard call and a teal whistle and a widgeon whistle, but now you have a dog whistle. You've upped your game now. You're on another level like Colt McKivitz talks about. There's levels of this game. I used to bring the dog trainer with us, and Brad Arrington would handle Axel. And I'd be like, oh, my God, did you see what he just did? He blew his whistle, and that dog turned around. He put his hands like this, back, and that dog went 350 yards, and now I'm doing it.
Yeah.
After I called and after I shot, and now I'm like, there are different levels of this game. And now I get to take that mallard Axel just brought back and wow the crowd tonight at the dinner table. Mm-hmm. Axel just got a standing ovation in Saskatchewan that day of this 500-yard blind, and now I'm like, man, I wonder if I could get a standing ovation for my vermicelli tonight. Right? That's how I'm visualizing it, and that's the coolest lifestyle. We're fishing and hunting and then eating it.
Yeah,
and not just eating it. We're like taking pride in. If you saw Brad Forsyth's his strategy when he's doing his what he calls his bad cuss word his duck, that's what he calls it. You're just like, man, this dude is fired up. He's happy.
Yeah.
He's in his happy place. He's like Beavis and Butthead. Just like he's got the ingredients. He's laying them out. He's like, I got this. Get away. Da, da, da. Like he is on a mission.
Right.
After he just had a blast hunting them.
That's awesome.
That's the coolest thing about what we get to do. You don't have to be the best at it. You can just be subpar. Traeger will do a lot of the work for you. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, the oils, Napa Valley Olive Oil, who's dear friends of CWA, they got the Napa chapter, the Particelli family, genius cuisine. I've been to their house many times. Ray's mom, she's straight from Italy. I'm like, there's Italian news on the TV. Everything's Italy in here. There's a picture of what was he doing here? And I'm talking like ultra stars, big time movie stars eating in this woman's backyard, eating her pasta and her gnocchi and her horse tongue and her deer lungs and pig's feet. The things that I've eaten with the Particellis and the way they make it taste, I'm like, I'm all in. And then I get to do that with duck. And now they're teaching me how to use the livers for a gumbo, use the legs for this, keep the bones and boil down to broth and make a pho out of it. Really? I love pho. And it's hard to do, but now I can do it with speck bones and carcass and then lay the strips of speck meat in there like raw steak and then or rare steak and then let it cook in the broth. Dude, we're duck hunters. Yeah, and now we're freaking Guy Fieri. Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. It's freaking awesome.
That's right. I think the whole brotherhood of just hunting in general, like you kind of spoke to it, is different levels of your career as a hunter and then meeting other people and like the chef you were talking to. That type of stuff's infectious. Carson was a big game hunter. When we first met, I didn't care two licks about a big game. Nothing. People like, you put in points?
It's because you're smart.
Could care less. But now I'm like, oh yeah, I got my points, da-da-da. So that sort of stuff's been fun working with Carson. But we're running around on time. So
I talk too much is what you're trying to say.
Two more questions. So I've been around you for a little bit. You're always beating up music, talking about singers, etc. So your music career hasn't started, hasn't taken off.
Yes, it has.
Let's hear a beat. Give us a beat.
Oh, a beat. Got? No, I just got a drum set for my birthday.
Did you?
Yeah, and I got a drum set. It's like, oh man, it's gonna be awesome. You mean a beat like as in a freestyle rap?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Oh, geez, man.
Putting you on the spot.
Today's the day. I'm with CWA, so let's all say, hey, it's election day. Are we on the Trump train? We're making it rain with the mallard call. We're going to have a ball, watch them orange feet fall. We're going to put them on the Traeger and have a shot of Jaeger because we're fired up with a celebration like Kool and the Gang. My Benelli goes bang, bang, and if you heard me sang, I got a good voice, but I won't make it your choice. I'm like the guy on the dance floor that's going to make up a move. I got the groove. It's going to soothe your time when I cook you a recipe because I'm CB from Reno NV. I do it real VIP, real BIG, because I'm with CWA. Like I started this rap, let's say hey today and get on the Trump train and make it rain and get the gain because I want money back in my bank account, but I don't count the ducks on my strap. I just like to rap a little freestyle, go the extra mile. Again, thank you for having me. I appreciate CWA. Everything they do for the duck hunter. Don't take it for granted because it can be gone tomorrow. Don't have sorrow. Just get involved. Become a member. And I hope you remember my name when I'm gone. A little bit of a legacy. But here I go again. Do you want me to keep going on this rap today?
That was great. Nailed it, man. Well, we could be going on for hours and hours about industry and YouTube and kind of more about your story. But we'll leave it with one more question. You got one place to hunt.
Arkansas Flooded Timber with my dad. I took my dad on his last hunt on Christmas Eve 2005. He died on August 9th, 2006. And if I would have known it was his last hunt, I would have really, really cherished what he was doing, because it was foggy and you couldn't see anything. You could just hear roar, 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 roar. The geese were just roar, roar. You hear the little whistle of their wings, and I'd hit them, roar, 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 roar. And my dad would be like, I think they're getting close. I think they're getting close. And he's like, my dad was 54 when he died. So he's 53 at this time. He turned 54 in June that year, on the 24th of June, and died on August 6th. And he's like a kid. He's like leaning up. I'm like, sit back. We're in ground blinds. I'm like, they're going to see you through the fog. Sit back. He's like getting up, ready to roll. And boom, all of a sudden, just 4 or 5, 8, 10 big cannons just drop down through that fog. I'd be like, get him, Pops. And he'd sit up. And I got that picture on my wall. It's all foggy behind us still. And we're taking it didn't take us very long. I mean, it was right where that Winco is that you filmed the other day. Thanks. Things change. But that farm, the Opio Ranch, gave me my last memory with my dad. And, to bring him back, or to have a higher power and to believe in God and believe in Jesus and understand that you don't have to explain that to anybody, as long as you understand it in your heart and you know that one day I get to hunt with Dad again, and he's up there with Cecil and my grandpas and all the people that trailblazed this before me. I would take my dad to Prairie Wings with my good friend Brandon Adams. I'd have a bunch of people there because my dad would want to pick the guitar and play the drums, and he'd want to have me beatbox a little bit, and he'd want Zach Brown singing and Leith Lofton and Drake White and all of these singers that we've been blessed enough to get to know and hunt with, and he would want to sing with them, cook with Mr. Billy Bogey, hunt mallards out of the flooded timber, and just have a big time. And if there is a hunting spot in heaven, I hope it has flooded timber in it, because I'm telling you, there is nothing in the world. And I've been on the Snake River, the Missouri River, the Mississippi River. I've been all over the Snake. I've been all over California. Every state in the country almost I've hunted. Canada, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Peru. There's nowhere in the world like flooded timber. Now, I'm not saying California isn't as special as it gets, okay? Like, this place is awesome. But for me personally, to know what you're doing in flooded timber, and cutting them out of the sky and breaking them down, because they're going that way a bunch. Yeah. And to hear those callers reach out and touch them, which is why the cut down calls have become so popular, and the volume and the reach and what they call breaking ducks. When you break a duck, it is the most exhilarating feeling, maybe second to the birth of your child, but probably better than that. When you look up in the blue sky of Arkansas and they're literally 3/4 of a mile, and you can, what they call break mallard ducks, and they finish and they get over that canopy and get them on the corners, and then that first 8 fall through, and you're like, not yet, not yet, not yet. Here comes 60, and you're just like, oh, and then you're really Beavis and Butthead in it. And I know that's an older reference, but those guys would shake. They'd get so nervous they would shake with their AC/DC and Metallica shirts on, and that's how you feel as a duck hunter. You're like, oh my God, and you're just like, and then I don't call the shot. And people get so mad. You're like, I couldn't call it. It was just too cool. Yeah. I don't want to kill them. I mean, I love kill them, unapologetic, but a lot of times I get stuck in the moment, man. And I think that's what duck hunting does to you. And going back to what we said to end this is, I've worked in this industry now for a long time. I haven't had any other source of income for over 2 decades now. And I owe it to, the Benellis and the Federals and the Rock Merlots and the CWAs and the Terry Demons and Clay Belding and Clint Belding, and my mom Faith and my dad Orv. I have so many team members that believed in it and kept it going. Christian Curtis and Eric Larsgaard and their designs and what they've done for Banded. If it wasn't for those guys, I'd be pumping toilets. And so I'm just blessed. I feel blessed every day. And to be able to know that on Tuesday, I ate sushi last night at Makuni and got to eat a rainbow hand roll. And now I'm talking ducks with you guys. And from here, I go to Texas to hunt lessers and cranes and mallards. It's just, nobody would have ever told me this was going to happen when I was called the biggest recruiting mistake of my life by Fred Dallimore.
So what position?
Center field. I used to be able to run. Okay. I can still run a little bit, just not fast. But back then, the story goes, I would race somebody 12, 13 times until I beat them when their heart rate was about 190. I would just keep saying, we're going again.
You got the grit, man.
I raced a lot of name dropper names at UNLV big time names that were studs back in the day.
Yeah.
And never beat one of them. Never beat one of them. Not one.
Oh,
Not
that's
one.
great, man.
It's good. Baseball's a good analogy of my hunting career, man. It's like you become an overachiever. You weren't supposed to get there, and you just fight and try to keep working. And hopefully you do good things and you don't ever, you're going to burn bridges. I've burnt bridges, which is a regret in life. You look back on it, you're like, man, I wish I could call that guy and make up. I wish we could get past this. And you do.
Yeah.
You can. There's a way to do it. There's a way to talk things out. There's a way to communicate and be transparent, be honest, be apologetic, be humble, understand that at one time you have blinders on like a Budweiser Clydesdale and you're going down that road and you're like, all you can see is success. All you can taste is the next bit of success. I've never in my life been driven by money. This shirt right here is 15 years old. I like vintage. I'm not driven. I don't care about money. I don't care about yachts. I don't care about jets. I don't care about anything except the time, freedom, and the experience. And you look at it like how do I go back and make things right if I messed it up here? I never wanted to use somebody for something. I never wanted to be a bad businessman. I never wanted to be unethical. I never wanted to poach. I think that if we take advantage of this resource and you go out and you don't do the right thing when nobody's looking because you can get away with it, it's the wrong attitude. So when people go, man, they kill a lot of birds on the Fowl Life. No, we don't. We have what we call the power of editing. I can turn a hunt of 6 birds into 60 birds like that. Not me, because I suck with computers. But people that can edit can make it go, oh, man, I remember a hunt back 7 years ago where we had that same sky and one cloud. Let's go find that hunt and let's mix those birds in here because we're in the art of entertainment now. I'm not reality TV. I can't go out and like people are like, you need to show the reality of it like Steven Rinella does. Well, Steven Rinella is hunting one deer at a time. He might not kill that deer that day. If we go out and show 22 minutes of no ducks getting killed, you're the worst TV show in the world. If you show too many getting killed, you're unethical. There's a balance. You gotta have that balance of like, if I show the reality of this day and this week where it rained every single day and it was gray every day and we couldn't decoy anything, people are not going to watch.
Yeah.
They want to see some success. They want to see some instruction, how to get there, how to do it. So I learned that like, man, I'm not in the reality TV business. I'm in entertainment and selling product and not saying this hunt couldn't happen. But we might add in a few ducks on this hunt. Yeah. We might add in a flock that wasn't on that day, but no viewer's ever been able to ride in and go, gotcha. Yeah. And that's the power of my brother and Tom Rashashin and these guys, that Tyson Waldron and the editors of our show, they make it legit. And it's a story every single time. Yeah. Very seldom do we focus in on how many ducks we kill. I mean, whether it's Jack Daniels in camp with me or whether it's a Purple Heart recipient or a SEAL Team 6 member that's got shrapnel in his head and can never go overseas with his brothers and sisters again and fight for our country, and that's what causes depression. Think about that mindset. Yep. I don't get to go back and fight and almost die now. I'm going to be depressed. I want to go over there I'm supposed to be over there with them. That's what I've learned through hunting. We're minuscule on this earth, man. Our time on this earth is so fast. And if you get an ego because you kill a mallard duck, you're an idiot. If you get an ego because you won a duck hunting contest, duck calling contest, you're an idiot. And I mean that. Stop that infighting. Stop judging other hunters because they might do things different than you with a crossbow or a compound bow or a longbow or a traditional bow. Not everybody is going to be the best at everything. You just, when you get a little bit of success, understand that there's been hunters before you that would mop you up. Yep. And I don't care if you're a mule deer hunter and you think you're better. You've never met my cousin Thomas Baker. He's a goat in the mountains and he kills more 200 deer than I've ever seen in my life. Not him, he guides. Yeah. But as soon as you think you're the shit or the best, just go on a road trip and just see what's out there. If you think you're the best at baseball, go see what's out there at a 12-year-old academy in SoCal. And you'll be like, oh my gosh, that dude's 12? Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. We all think our kid's the best. You can't think we're the best hunters. You can't. It's this infighting, guys, and we could have a whole other series on this. Is like, really, you're gonna make fun of me because I took the skin off my duck and I cooked my duck different than you do? So you're gonna get on my channel and ridicule me because I didn't do things exactly how you did. You kill 4 ducks a year and you pluck them all. That's awesome. But you'll never see me go on your channel and be Siskel and Ebert and give you 2 thumbs down because your movie didn't entice me. Yep. I'm just doing things different. I just did a freestyle rap. The first photo shoot I ever did, I had a flat bill hat on and I was in an alley in a city marketing duck hunting. I wasn't a redneck with a big Copenhagen in my mouth standing up against a tree. I was just different and I took a lot of smack for it. But I stayed the course. I've never disrespected ducks. Won't do it. I don't disrespect the resource. I might have did things different. I grew up on a skateboard in a baseball field, right? I thought I was going to be Tony Hawk and Mike McGill in Bones Brigade. I thought I could ollie 3 decks. I could ollie less than 3 inches. I thought I'd be able to drop in on a half pipe and beat Christian Hosoi and do big air. I sucked. But I still had that mentality of like, man, I like skateboard, man. It's cool. Skateboarding is not a crime. And then I kind of took that mentality into the UFC, the MMA, and that's how Bandit spawned with that story I told you.
Yeah.
But people do things different. Yep. We judge, so we're so quick to judge now and cut down other hunters because they're on land that we wanted to be on, so we're jealous. They got a better truck and a better boat, so we're jealous. They got a sponsorship, so we're jealous. Man, we got to support each other.
Yeah, we're all in the same group, right?
We're all. I think that there's too many people that want us to fail. Why would we try to make each other fail? And like my good friend Remy Warren says, this is a privilege. And like my good friend and good friend mentor Ted Nugent says, no, it's not just a privilege. It's our right to hunt. It's biblical, and it's our right to hunt. But rights and privileges can be revoked. And Remy always says it's going to be another hunter to get it revoked. Let's do it right. Let's do this. Don't go on social media with a coyote in a snare trap and talk smack to it as you walk up to it and disrespect it. Just go dispatch it and don't even show it on social media.
Yep.
Coyotes are a respectful animal, part of our ecosystem. We built into their land. All right? Don't throw snow geese out of the back of your truck like they're cordwood. They just gave up their lives for us as hunters. Yep. Respect them. Don't disrespect the resource. And I think if we all came together on just that one little facet of respecting the resource and sustainability and what that means and what it gives to us, I think hunting would be better off as a whole in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. But man, we're too apt to just be like, it's all about me. I'm going to throw these geese on the ground and I'm going to go scout the next field because I'm going to pile them up again tomorrow. Yep. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
We talked to our hunter ed classes, like as a hunter, that's not what a hunter looks like to me. That guy is not in my group of folks, and it just takes one person to do something wrong, and you're gonna get every non-hunter or someone that might have been on the fence of hunting to just think every hunter is that guy with those geese or whatever it may be. Especially with social media and stuff these days. But
I think the analogy goes: 10% of America hunts, 10% doesn't. Yep. And 80% are on the fence. Why give them a reason to be against it? Let's get them. Yep. Let's welcome them in. Let's welcome new hunters in. COVID taught us that people wanted to know where their food came from.
Yep.
Who knows that better than a hunter? If they don't hunt, at least show them that you can love the recipes.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different ways to get people to be like, hunting ain't that bad. I'm not going to do it. But you keep cooking for me like that. Yeah, I'm good with you going out and doing it.
Right. That's exactly right. We get that. I mean, the food is the great equalizer, right? Like, hey, what is this?
I think it's a great way to back people into it.
Yeah,
it's a great way to back people in.
The easiest way, I would think.
It's the easiest way. Really? You got that? That's wild turkey? How'd you do that? Oh, I was on the Sacramento River and my boat accidentally hit a rock. We were doing a little sneak and he hit a rock and I heard him gobble up top and we walked up and called. He came in and he was at 4 feet, 4 yards, and we harvested him. Then we took the legs and we did all this. And they're like, no way. Mm-hmm. I mean, it becomes kind of intriguing to people when you get down to the part about it's not just killing. Yep. When you start talking about the resource and these animals and the management of these animals and the conservation and how hunters are the ultimate conservationists, like where would the elk population be? Where would the Atlantic flyway Canada goose population be? Where would the NWTF and the turkey population of America be without hunters and sweat equity? What egg salvage? I mean, look at what you guys do just to put that many more ducks in the flyway.
Yep.
I mean, that's hunters doing that. That's not PETA doing that. That's not antis doing that. That's hunters doing that. The ultimate conservationist. Again, going back to the maturity level, become a conservationist as early in your hunting career as you possibly can. Yep. And understand how important that aspect is of your success and generations, because your hunting career is going to go by fast. Your access is going to be gone in a hurry. We could talk about all that until we're blue in the face. It's very, very, I'm going to say humbling. It's like you got to stay humble to understand that this can be gone. Whether you lose your hunting rights or not, which they're trying to do, you could lose your access. That farm can be gone tomorrow and have a Target on it. Who wants a Target? I don't even like Target. I won't even go into Target. Well, they made me go in one last night. But I don't like Target. But they build them everywhere. I used to hunt right there. We've heard Justin Moore's new song, That's My Dirt. Remember all those songs about dirt, Chris Knight and Luke Bryan and all these guys about buy dirt, Jordan Davis? That's because they want to hunt on it. It's not because they're not telling us to buy dirt to save it up for Target to flip it. They're saying you better buy dirt and go hunt and fish it.
Yeah.
They're not saying it to flip it, like you said, and put a movie theater on it. Remember Chris Ledoux when he's saying about the last great drive-in? Remember when the drive-in got torn down? He used to go watch movies, John Wayne movies and stuff every Friday night, and then they came in and tore the drive-in down and freaking put up a store, and he was pissed. He wrote a song about it.
Yeah.
The Last Drive-In or whatever it's called. I mean, it's going on today more than ever. Its development's going wild. And we're still wearing a Sitka jacket, so I thought he'd take it off by now.
It's got the CWA logo. Come on.
Hey, can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
That hat right there, is that not a California logo?
The bear?
Yeah.
Bear?
Yeah.
Thank you. I said that last night. He's like, no, that's my company. I'm like, no, that's California.
Yeah, the golden bear.
Golden Bear? That's tough, Larry.
With a beautiful sun coming up in the background.
This is Larry and this is Kyle. These guys work their butts off. They work for a company called Rock Road Productions in Kansas City, owned by Zach Peterson. They shoot our show and produce all of it.
Okay.
And they're workers. These dudes know how to hide. They know how to manipulate their camera angles to get the reality of how ducks work and geese work. They're all hunters by nature, so they all understand it. And then you put a camera in their hands. It's best experience I've ever had of working with a camera crew and a production crew in the field production, understanding what you're trying to get out of that day's hunt and that story. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't know if you know enough about me, but we work from 6 a.m. until midnight every day. Am I lying? Every day. Because you only got 3 months to get it. And you got, maybe if you chase snows longer than that, but you got to get it. So we're scouting, we're hunting, we're filming B-roll, we're filming the dog tip, the calling tip, the flagging, the drone shots. Then we're going back and filming the ducks getting butchered on the tables and the knives. And then we're going into the kitchen and we're doing the recipe. And then we're filming the dinner and the toast of the wine or the pairing with the whiskey. And then finally you lay it down and you're up 5 hours later and you're back on another hunt. Which is why we like afternoon hunts, right? We like afternoon hunts a lot. I've always liked afternoon hunts. Canada taught me that.
I do like some afternoon delights.
Oh, that west wind with the sun at your back.
Yeah.
About 12 miles an hour. Mallard just, there's nobody out here today. I'm just going to go on a little jaunt and boom, it turns into magic in a hurry.
Exactly. Well, Chad, dude, appreciate it. And I spent a little bit of time with you, but you, like you mentioned, I will say that you are a workhorse. It's people probably think of you're going to go film a show and it's just like, oh, go shoot some ducks, got the film going. Like you guys are working the entire time and it's constant production. It's not just a couple guys with a camera out there filming duck hunts. So
constant. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate CWA. I wouldn't, I'm proud of the partnership and it's just such an easy thing to get involved in and believe in. When you get around these banquets, around the members, around the full-time employees, from your land development to what you guys do for conservation. And then, you can get into the veterans hunt program and the kids and the youth and the women in the outdoors. And it's just nonstop. It's so well-rounded, so well executed. No matter where you live, become a member. calwaterfowl.org, is that it?
Yep.
calwaterfowl.org and become a member. Put the decal on your gun case, the butt of the stock of your Benelli. Put it on your truck or your trailer. And when people ask you about it, be like, dude, just get involved. Yeah. $35, you spend that on a Copenhagen or what do they chew there? Zins. And a Casey's Pizza in Kansas. It's $35 and some fuel to get to the boat ramp.
Right.
$35, you become a member for a year.
Yeah.
Renew every year and get involved. Fly out here and go to a banquet in Calusa or Chico or Sacramento or Danville or wherever y'all are having. Just come experience it and get involved. It's awesome.
Yep.
CWA is badass. Are you allowed to cuss on this podcast? You guys haven't said
Hey,
one.
dude, you're starting. You can do whatever you want. We work here.
Well, beep that out. Beep that out. I apologize. I don't want kids hearing me because sometimes I get too fired up.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you, man, and thanks for coming on this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Banded. Go Banded.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Save It for the Blind podcast. You can find our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.